What's up, everybody? I'm Gio, and welcome back to Carvalho Creations, where I show you how to make awesome props and projects of your own. Now, I know it's been a while since we had a tutorial, but in celebration of halfway to Halloween, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I created this awesome-looking werewolf bust using nothing but Portland cement and our cement clay recipe. So if you guys are excited about today's video, let's get in that spooky spirit, because we're about to go wild. All right, what's up, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to do a werewolf bust, and I want to go over the material list so you know what you're going to need to get this going. So first and foremost, you're going to need a little small piece of plywood. Mine's cut at roughly 10 inches by 15 inches or so. Again, you can make a smaller bust or a bigger bust. I just wanted to make sure I had a nice wide base to start with, because the way I'm going to be sculpting my werewolf, I want him to be kind of like really furry and wide in the shoulders. So I want to make sure I have enough space to attach that to the base and make sure I can get that looking right. Definitely going to need a little bit of chicken wire here, and this is to create the form. So I take a sheet, this is about the size of the sheet here, and I just want it to feel like the shoulders of the character and something that I can mold and bend into place. So I'm going to be screwing this down to my wood base, and then we'll be taking a little bit of 1/2-inch PVC pipe. I'll cut it with my pipe cutters and then use my heat gun to bend it and then screw that down to the base, and this will be perfect to attach my foam head. Now we're going to be using the foam heads that we used in our cement clay recipe video, and we're also going to be using cement clay from that video as well. So I'll link that down in the description below so you can refer back to the video for the recipe and how I make my foam heads as well. Another thing we're going to need is definitely the heat gun, like I said, to bend our PVC pipe. We're going to need a razor blade here to carve up our foam. We're going to be using some great stuff, if I haven't already mentioned that. We definitely need some great stuff to get that form looking right, to attach everything together and make sure it's nice and put together. And then we're going to be using a little bit of painter's tape, and I use this stuff to tape over, because this chicken wire is pretty porous, so I need to fill this up with some tape before I spray my foam over the top of it. Now, in this video, I'm not going to be going over how I do the armature for the bust. If you guys want to see that, you can definitely check out my Crypt Keeper bust video where I show that in detail as far as the armature. So for this video, we're actually going to get right to the carving stage. So this is where we're going to start at this step here. So I already did the armature here. I went ahead and sprayed my foam over the top, and I gave it more foam in the areas that I needed the features to be, and then less in where I'm going to carve, so I kind of give myself an idea. So I'm going to be using a marker here just to mark everything in place so we know whereabouts we want to carve this up. And once that stage is done, I'll just get to the carving with a nice sharp razor blade. Make sure you guys use a sharp razor blade for this, so it'll make it a lot easier and safer for you. And then we'll get down to the sculpting. So we're also going to be using not only our cement clay, but I want to be using a little bit of cement today. So one thing I've been wanting to try out is just working with cement and seeing if I can carve with that, or if I can sculpt with that. I think it's gonna be a really fun medium to use. It's cheap, it's accessible to most of you guys, so I thought it's something good, another nice technique to use to be able to create your characters for outdoors, for Halloween, or even statues you want permanently in your front yard. So we're gonna see how this goes today. If you guys are watching this, everything worked out. If not, then maybe you'll see it in the blooper. But without any further ado, why don't we go ahead? Go wild. All right, so I just wanted to give you guys just a little detailed look at the carved foam process. Now, I'm not sure if you can tell here, but I did do a little bit of indentation for the hair, and then just kind of generally put in the features of the face. You can see it from the portrait view there. I'm sorry, the profile view. And I just kind of smoothed everything out. So what I'm looking for is a surface where I can apply my cement to. So I'm going to do like a scratch coat of cement, which is basically just a thin layer with some texture. So when I put the cement over the top of this, it'll grip onto that. So if I did it over the foam, there's a likelihood of it sliding off. So I'll just be doing a quick scratch coat, but we're going to start to sculpt the face with our cement clay first. So I'll do the sculpture with the cement clay, and then I'll do my scratch coat all in the same day. I'll let it sit for 24 hours, and then we'll come back and do the detailed sculpting of the actual cement bust here on the bottom. So we'll see how this goes. This is going to be a trial process, but I just wanted to show you this really quick. All right, let's get to the next step. All right, to start off our sculpture today, I'm going to set the eyes in place, and I'm just using plastic doll eyes. I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description down below if you guys want to try out or check out these eyes and get them for yourself. Now, they're small, and I'm doing half scale size here, so they're perfect for this. But if you're doing like full scale size pieces, I've gotten away with it in the past, but they may look a little small for your character depending on what you're making or what characters you're making. So but I'll leave that down in the description below. So I'm just going to go ahead and start my sculpture off with forming in around the eyes and the brow ridge. I knew for the Wolfman I wanted him to have like a real furrowed brow. I have a bunch of reference pictures I'm using on my phone that I have sitting down on the side here. Now you can't see these shots, but so I do have a little bit of reference pictures, but I'm not copying one specific werewolf in particular. Typically, when I do my werewolves, the types that I like are the Wolfman style, where he's, on two legs, more man than beast, I'd say, like a good in between a man and a wolf. And I like that idea, kind of like the movie Wolf with Jack Nicholson, that type of vibe. I like that kind of werewolf. So for this, I'm going a little heavier than maybe that style, but I wanted to maintain that more man than beast kind of feeling. So I'm just skinning over my foam here, and I want to make it clear too. You'll see me in the video dip my fingers in the water, go ahead and put that on the foam. And the reason I do that is because I'm trying to get moisture on the foam, because this cement clay has a tendency to stick to a wetter surface. So if your fingers are constantly, moist from using the water and using the clay, it's going to stick to your fingers more so than your armature. So if you wet down the armature, it helps out with that process. So I also too, I'm in the high desert, so it's super hot over here, and it was about 90 something degrees the day I was sculpting this here, and my cement clay was starting to cure a lot quicker. So I probably did the sculpt in maybe an hour, 45 minutes to max, before it created like a skin over the top of it, and it was a little more difficult to sculpt with. So if you are sculpting with cement clay, try to keep yourself in a nice shaded area and indoors if possible, out of the wind, that type of thing, because it does shorten your sculpting time when you're out hot in the sun. So anyway, right here, so what I ended up doing was kind of filling the forms with this character to get the proportions set about what I wanted it to look like. And then I put another skin over the top of this to create the features and some more of the details, so I can sculpt it right away. So that way I can put down my forms, get the shape about right, and then I can go back over it with details and not worry about it drying. That was the best way I can combat the heat that I was working with here. So, but now I'm just working on the jaw here and some of the teeth and the details. And what's cool about the cement clay is you can carve a little bit while soft, and then as it starts to set while you're working, you can refine the details a little bit more, and it becomes more rigid, so it holds its shape a lot better. Sometimes when you're working with traditional clays, they'll stay too soft, and you're not allowed to get that texture without using some kind of wire armature. So I'm able to get away with these teeth. You can see them kind of sagging forward a little bit here as I put them in. But as the clay starts to set, I can adjust that and have them coming upward like I want them to. So the cement clay, like I've always talked about, it's a really great product. I mean, it holds together really well. You get very minimal cracking, if any. I love the way it's held up also outside. I have a couple pieces that are sitting outside, and they've been completely fine. I know a lot of you guys have asked about mold because of the flour that's in there, but so far I haven't noticed any mold. Everything's looking really good. So if you guys are interested in this clay, again, I'm going to link my video to my cement clay recipe down in the description below so you guys can check it out. And again, now you can see my cement here starting to set up a little bit, so it's perfect to start to refine that sculpture a little bit more now that there's a hard skin over this. And I'm just wetting down the surface before I add more pieces of clay like that bottom lip, but now I get to go ahead and put in the detail, the fun part of the sculpt, where I deepen in a lot of these places around the mouth here, do the little carved creases in the lip itself to make it look cracked.
and kind of setting everything together, and the Wolfman starting to take shape. I really enjoy this thing. So now I'm going to start doing the hair around the face. So again, this is just one batch. You guys can see from my cement clay video, this one batch was able to get me the entire face here and all the hair that I'm doing now. So what I end up doing for the hair is, once I have the facial features about nice the way I like them to look, I go ahead and take a little bit of material and just kind of press it into the side of the face, into the cheeks, and that's going to be where I put my hair for this Wolfman. And then for the rest of his head, I'll be using just regular Portland cement. But this, I wanted there to be more detail in the front here, and I figured it was going to be a lot better to get some greater detail with the cement clay as opposed to just the cement itself. The Wolfman has always really been my favorite monster, hands down, and love the way the characters have always looked. There's so many different renditions, but definitely the Wolfman. When I think about my specific coolest Wolfman I've seen on screen, it's got to be Monster Squad. That Wolfman was so cool. If you guys agree with me, let me know down in the comment section. So to get down to the cement part now, I didn't know exactly how much cement I was going to use or what the ratio between water and cement was. So this was kind of trial and error process. I was just adding a little bit of water at a time to my cement to get the consistency that I needed. And I'm actually doing a scratch coat here, which is just a thin layer of cement that you can add some texture to with some tools. So that way, when you put your next layer, it doesn't slide off. It has something really nice to grip to, so the weight doesn't just come off and crack from the armature. So I'm mixing this by hand now, and I get it to like a really thin pancake batter consistency. And now I'm just gonna, kind of like I do with my Monster Mud application, just take handfuls of it and put it all over the entire piece to create that bonding layer that I'm going to use for my cement.
All right, now that our sculpture is done, so I did this, I let it sit for about 24 hours. All the sculpting part of it's done, so you can see the cement clay here, and then just the regular cement over the top. Now, I just put the regular cement as a base coat here over our foam to start off with, and then I'm going to do another layer right now with more cement, and we're going to go thicker, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick, and then I'm just going to start shaping it with my tools. So hopefully I can get this guy looking good. This is the first time I'm using cement, so we'll see how it goes. But if this works out, it's going to open up a whole new avenue of things to make. So I hope you guys are excited about this one, because I definitely am. So let's see how this goes. Yeah.
Okay, now getting to the actual cement layer, I started to just take my mixture and I mixed this a little thicker for this layer. So it was more like a clay consistency in a sense. And when I started, I realized, oh man, I need to put water down. You're supposed to put water down over any dry cement or adding more to it so it can help it adhere to the surface. And I didn't do that. And I did get a gnarly crack just right in that area across the shoulder there. So it really does pay to make sure you have your surface nice and saturated with water before you add any more new cement to your existing armature. And here I'm just using a palette knife here. It probably would be best to have a trowel for this step, make it a lot easier for you, especially when you're putting down a lot of material at once. But this little tool was perfectly fine, and I have this little set I got for like $10 on Amazon for the metal palette knives, and that's what I used to carve out the cement here. But I wanted to get a nice thick coat. Now I want to mention as well, you definitely want to use at least 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches of material over what you're doing when you're using straight cement. Otherwise it does have a tendency to crack. Also too, I'm using straight Portland cement, and I've done more research since I've done this, and Apparently a mortar mix would be better. So I'm probably going to be trying that next time, and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm using as well the next time I give this a go. Now here I'm just taking this little squeegee, I guess, and putting on more material in the areas I want to carve. So I want him to have a ripped shirt, like, you know, the traditional werewolf look. So I put down more material there, and I'm just using my palette knives here to create that torn, tattered shirt line. And I'm also pressing, as you can see here, I'm pressing the material over itself to create that fold in the material. And then I'm just kind of working that. Now, what's cool about the cement and what I've come to realize is you can put it on kind of wet the way it is here, and then as it starts to set up, it gives you another opportunity to kind of refine your shapes a little bit more. So right here, I'm creating the shirt on the right side there, and then I'm putting more material down and folding it over as it starts to cure to create that natural look. It's a pretty cool medium to use. I'm probably going to be using it on many more applications. Maybe I'll do a cauldron or something like that, something that you guys would be able to put outside for Halloween and be really cool and interesting. And I mean, it's like $15 for a 90-pound bag of this stuff. So, and then I think for the mortar mix, like I was talking about, is actually more inexpensive than that. So, and also I'm doing this for the sleeve as well. So you just put down more material, and then I'm going to create that tattered sleeve just to give the illusion of, you know, his torn up shirt from Transforming. And take your time with this process. You know, again, if you can, make sure you stay in the shade. It'll give you more time to work here. And I'm just using the edge of my palette knife to create a little bit of fur, to create the tatters and rips in the shirt, and also to create the depth from the shirt to the actual fur. So it gives that illusion of more depth. And then as well, on the back of the head, I'm going to put more cement here as well. Now, I did have a lot of cracking along the seam to where the actual Portland cement and our cement clay recipe met. So I did have to fill that a couple times. Now, I'm not exactly sure why that was happening. Maybe I didn't put enough water down when I created that seam on the dry cement, so it didn't adhere as well. But it did turn out well. It just took me, you know, maybe 2 more times to fill in the cracks, but it did hold after a while. And now again, I'm just taking the edge of that palette knife there that goes from the scalp, you know, continuing on that texture to the back of the head. This is also pretty messy stuff. I would definitely recommend, you know, either doing this on the grass or doing it on the covered surface.
Okay, so now that we have our cement all done and our cement's pretty much dry, I did go over it a few times with a few different layers. So like I said, I went about 3/4 of an inch thick for this cement. I noticed that anything less than that, it had a tendency to crack. So I'm in the high desert, so it's super hot over here. And I had a gnarly crack along this side as it was drying. So it's pretty easy to patch this up though. I just make sure you spritz your dry concrete with water before you apply any more. Just mixed up a nice little solution and then filled in any cracks or crevices I had here that I wanted patched up. So now that this guy is all dry, he's a little crumbly and cracking. Hopefully you guys can see some of the detail there. But I think he needs a little bit of a sand. So I'm going to go over it with 120 grit, and then I'll probably use my Dremel just to get a little more detail, kind of smooth some of these sections out, especially where there's a transition between the cement clay and the actual cement here on the back. So we're going to do a little bit of sanding, and once that's done, we'll get it ready for paint. So why don't we get to that next step?
Okay, as far as the dremeling stage, now I'm using a carbon bit, so tungsten carbon bit on my Dremel here. And as far as carving on the cement clay, it's no problem. It takes the carbs really well. It doesn't crumble or break apart or anything like that. It's really easy on the material. So you can definitely do this to refine your shapes, which is basically what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of smoothing everything out and making sure there's no burrs, and then refining those teeth a little bit more because I want them to be a little sharper looking. But when I tried to Dremel on the actual cement itself, that had a tendency to crumble very easily. So if you do that, I would recommend low speed, maybe just a sanding drum or something on your Dremel, so you don't get any blown out areas of just regular. Now again, this only sat for about 24 hours, so maybe it needed a few more days to cure. That could be the reason, but that's what I experienced. So as far as the painting for here, I'm just going to do some black spray paint as a base coat. I did tape off my plastic eyes there so I didn't get any of the paint or overspray on there, and just giving the whole thing, including the base, a black coat of paint. And now to get into the actual painting of the face, I always talk about layering when doing the characters, especially organic characters. You definitely want to have a range of colors to create the looks that you're going for. A lot of people ask me, how do you get these things to look so realistic? And the painting has a big part to do with that. So right here, I'm just putting down a like a pinkish color, like a skin tone, to get a base to start with. And then I'm punching in, it's that same color, I just added a couple drops of navy blue and black to my mixture, and that darkened it enough to give me this cool shadowed look. So I'm using that in the eyes and all the creases, in the wrinkles around the mouth, everything like that, just to give the character depth. And then once this layer is complete, I'll go back in with a rust color. So that's 2 layers just here. And then I'll go back in with a rust color because I felt like he needed a little more color. So I'm using a rust here just to bring out the nose and some of the eyebrows. And then I'll start to brush that in to the hair around his face as well. And this is going to give me a little more variety looking. It's not going to be a super prominent color by the time the paint job is done, but it's going to give me that layer that's in it. So as I paint the nose here to deepen the nose color, I'm leaving some of that rust visible so you get the idea of it. You can see it hidden behind the hairs. But this color that I'm using now is really starting to set everything in and give you a lot of contrast in the character. And this is where I feel it starts to come to life. Now I'll be doing one more highlighted color. I felt like the pink was a little too pink, and I want him to have more of a beige tone, almost like a dog's face in a sense. And then I'll be highlighting some of the hair as well, just to give another layer of something to look at. And it's really going to bring the character along. Now for the shirt, I chose a blue color. This is just something I used to do as a kid. Every time I draw the Wolfman, he always had a torn blue shirt on. So I'm just kind of going along with the nostalgia of it. But I'm going to put down this like nice teal color for the base coat of the shirt. And then I'll be taking a navy color and just doing a little bit of detailing under the collar and creating more of the wrinkles and stuff in the shirt, just to give a little more depth to that as well. And of course, you got to hand paint at least a little bit of your props. You know, it really gives it another layer of detail. So I'm just putting in a nice plum color for the gums to make it look like canine gums. And then I'll be doing some white for the teeth, just the tips of the teeth, so it blends more, it looks more natural. And then to finish everything off, I'll be using a little red blood splatter to make him look really cool. But this video is pretty much done. If you guys want to see more cement clay characters, please let me know down in the comment section below. Till next time, happy hunting.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with me to the end of our video today, and I hope you enjoyed our cement werewolf bust. Now, it was so much fun to try a new medium out and share the process with you guys and some of the things I learned along the way through the experience. So I'll probably be using cement in the future. So if you guys want to see a character made from cement, please let me know down in the comment section below. But until next time, keep building things, stay creative, and don't forget to go wild with it. I'm Gio from Carvalho Creations, and I'll see you next time. Yeah.